Welcome to yet another Pecha Kucha evening by Kohler Bold Art, featuring 6 leading architects and designers in Chennai tonight. It's been almost 6 years that Kohler has been hosting Pecha Kucha nights in 8 cities now across the country, combining futuristic thinking and rigorous craftsmanship with a 145-year legacy of living on the edge. So in keeping with Kohler's affinity for the arts, tonight we celebrate design and host a dialogue between you and the 6 skill masters that we have here in front. Our theme is Wanderlust, creativity inspired by travel. As usual, we use Pecha Kucha's simple concept for an informal and fun sharing of creative ideas, works, thoughts. It could be holiday pictures, just about anything really, in the 2020 format. So it's time to invite the Chennai panel of the formidable 6 to tell us what they think. And we'll begin. Sriram Ganapathy, MD of KSM Architecture.
When we say design, when we talk about design, it's probably not even a visual manifest for people from outside. Essentially, we look at design as how a space feels, how the people inside, how they feel. So you can't really put a visual or a fact or a number to it. Design is design, any which way you look at it. So it's only perception is different. It's the viewpoint from where you're looking at it. Our needs over here for a country like India, the needs of a large cross-section of the people is very basic, but that is our essential. You establish certain design parameters, you fix that as basics, and then from there you raise it and try to make it improve the quality of life for the humans that you're designing the space for. I'd be very sad if a kind of typology or kind of building would be attributed to the kind of work we do. No, we don't. We do not follow that. But like I said, working with the climate, the context, the environment is the key. That is the basis. It forms the basis of all our design approaches. We are exposed to so much of variety that's happening outside, and oftentimes you need to be a part of a different environment to experience something wholly different. I mean, it's a different feel when you actually go there, go to different places and experience it. I'm wholly in sync with this. I think travel is really important, and it's a kind of a cliched statement. Every time you get into school of architecture, and the first thing they'll say is, you must travel. And then everyone say, oh yes, we love traveling. For me, this format of Pecha Kucha is more fun. It's just fun. We just get together, people of our profession, we just get together and we just speaking our thoughts, fairly uninhibited. We just say what we want. We have little time to say whatever we have to say, and then we just say it. So it's a lot of fun. Pecha Kucha is a lot of fun.
I love this poem. It's called Leisure. What is life if full of care? We have no time to stand and stare. A poor life this if full of care, we have no time to stand and stare. It kind of puts things in perspective. Travel for me is leisure that I look forward to. And if you have a good companion, then you're set. It just frees up your mind and hand, and the cell phone is just a camera. Time just slows down, details seem to be more visible. You tend to notice people, their moods, their mannerisms, buildings by the sides of rivers, canals, gardens. The temples of India have always been awe-inspiring. These are some of the lesser-known temples. This is the Dharasuram temple near Kumbakonam. It really makes you stop and wonder the time, the effort, and detail that went into their construction. This brings me back to the poem. What is life if full of care? We have no time to stand and stare. A poor life this, if full of care, we have no time to stand and stare. And today I would just like to tweak this 100-year-old poem thus. Thank you.
Up next is Sunil Philip, Principal Architect and Co-founder of PSP Designs.
Design for us, or for me personally, is like an interpretation of the sense that you get out of what is needed to be done for a particular project. It's very difficult to define design as an entity itself, in the sense that I keep telling people it's probably how emotions work, in the sense that you get flooded by emotions. So design is also multiple layers of different kinds of things which actually come together. If I as an architect is going to work on this particular exercise, there is a certain personality that comes in, which means that a personality not necessarily in terms of my likes and wants, but in the sense of my approach to design itself. There is always the element of my experience, my experiences of actually dealing with people and environments which are similar to this, which is automatically going to come in the sense that in terms of palette, in terms of material, in terms of how things associate with each other. If somebody asks us what is your signature or whatever, in the sense that sometimes there are certain colors that recur, there are sometimes certain textures that recur, certain proportions of space that recur, certain motifs that actually appear that recur. So that gets associated to us. It's not really an intention that, okay, this is our style of work or anything. So there's really no style. So when this topic came up itself, I was wondering as to how to approach this this exercise of actually putting together this talk. But it's very interesting because the automatic, or in the sense somebody would like directly interpret it as, okay, you need to physically travel for creativity, okay? But that's not necessary, okay? But travel is definitely very, very important because it actually completely opens your mind to certain kinds of experiences. See, Pecha Kucha is very specifically for the architectural fraternity, in the sense that the speakers are architects, the audience is architects, and it's actually a grossly missing aspect that is much required in our community. So this is a great platform for that, in the sense for us to meet, interact, and exchange ideas. As an architect, we never stop learning. There are various journeys that we undertake in this endeavor, some through our childhood, some as we grow up, and when we educate ourselves. Some of the strongest impressions that stay with us are the ones that involve travel, some with intent, some without. One of the memories that stayed as a very strong impression during these early trips was the point at which we crossed the border into Kerala. I'm sure a lot of you have actually experienced this. It's almost as though somebody switched on the color switch. The change was so dramatic that even today when I fly in, it takes my breath away. In sharp contrast to this, people in Kerala dress very muted. It's almost reactionary to the environment. It's creams, whites, browns. Even the buildings are built in this manner. I can't imagine attending a wedding in Kerala where everyone is dressed in the brightest of colors. In contrast to this, look at Rajasthan. You don't need a wedding for people to dress this way. It's part of life in a landscape which offers not much relief. Ubud, Bali, brilliantly beautiful, almost picture perfect. It's the kind of place you could take a camera and shoot blindly and every picture would be perfect. The first time where we were there, the impact was similar to my childhood trips to Kerala. It's like almost somebody turned on the Technicolor switch. An architect never stops learning or never should stop learning, but learn to adapt and thrive in an ever-changing, connected digital world. Multiple ways to travel, sometimes by moving, sometimes without. Thank you.
We're now moving from the architect, I don't like to call it fraternity, but the family, and moving into the designer space, and we'd like to introduce two young designers, Shivan Bhatia and Naresh Kukreja, the duo behind the brand, Shivan and Naresh.
Design is problem solving for your times. And I think being a successful designer is to address the problems of your generation.
Like design has to just be understood as and when on your feet. It has to be the face value, it has to serve its purpose, it has to just be accepted as soon as it's out.
Fashion today has started to dominate so many industries, and architecture is not far behind from it. So when I pick my architect or my interior designer, I'm already looking for that kind of signature and the universe of that architect and of that interior designer. So in a lot of sense, fashion has already influenced architecture in a huge way.
And vice versa. I mean, you know that there are so many projects of designers that get heavily influenced by the way an architecture of a certain city is.
Or a movement like Bauhaus movement of architecture.
Talk about the Jaipur way of doing it or the Rajasthan way of doing it has influenced so many designers all across the world, in fact.
Our reason to start this brand was because of our love to travel, and this circle of fashion that we create is about traveling ourselves, getting inspired to make clothing that inspires you to travel with them again. And as far as we are always inspiring people to travel, I feel our job to be on this planet as designers is something that we're successfully doing to design and inspire. I think initiatives like Pecha Kucha by Kohler are some of the rarest platforms that we have that unify design industries across whether it's fashion or architecture or interiors, and they give you a very relevant platform to discuss ideas that go beyond just the product.
Okay, 1945. So this is right after Second World War. Fashion looked very boring, browns, grays. Everything was very regimentalized. We were all kind of recovering from the crazy amount of 20s which we had dealt with. And here we are, monotones. And comes Diana Vreeland, one of the most legendary editors of the time of Harper's and Vogue US. She completely changed the way we look at fashion now. She made sure that the editorials they were being shot through her eye, were shot all across the world, from Africa Savannah to the background of India, the exotic India that we know. She's completely changed the way we see how travel and fashion has been combined.
And then moving on, what good is fashion if it's not consumed for the purpose it was designed for? So the idea is the circle of fashion always has to complete itself. Here, one of our friends and one of our clients who was so driven by the brand actually took her entire band of girls on her bachelorette trip, dipped in Shivan and Naresh, specifically the Eden print here, in Greece on the island of Mykonos, raging and partying before her wedding. And we feel it's a very interesting way of changing the landscape of fashion in India, which is always obsessed with just wedding clothes and wedding wear. So here we are, our time is up, and we want to travel again in order to get inspired and inspire people to travel again. Thank you very much.